In the verdant heart of Mindanao, where the jungle's embrace holds secrets of a time long forgotten, the villagers of Balintawak lived in harmony with the land. Their days were filled with the simple joys of rural life, the rhythms of nature dictating the ebb and flow of their existence. But one fateful night, the heavens themselves seemed to cry out in anguish as a fiery harbinger tore through the sky, its tail a blazing testament to its otherworldly origin. The meteorite, carrying within it the malevolent life form known as the Pupa, crashed into the outskirts of the village with a force that shook the earth and silenced the nocturnal chorus of the jungle. The impact left a crater smoldering in deep, a wound upon the land that would soon fester and spread its infection. Mang Tomas, an elder revered for his wisdom and his tales of spirits and deities, was the first to witness the aftermath. His lantern cast long shadows as he approached the site, the air thick with the scent of charred vegetation. The meteorite lay at the center, pulsing with a sinister energy that seemed to beckon him closer. Compelled by a mixture of fear and curiosity, Man Tomas reached out to touch the alien stone. It was then that the pupa weighed its move, a mass of tendrils erupting from the meteorite's core, latching on to him with a predatory hunger. The transformation was immediate and horrific. His cries of agony echoed through the night as his body was reshaped into a grotesque mockery of human form. In the days that followed, strange occurrences began to plague Balintawak. Livestock were found mutilated in the fields, their bodies twisted and broken. Unseen creatures stalked the jungle's edge, their eyes glowing with an unholy light. Whispers of a curse spread among the villagers, a fear that the old stories of malevolent spirits might hold more truth than they had ever dared to believe. The pupa, now wearing the guise of Mang Tomas, moved among the villagers, its presence a blight upon the land. It sought out the isolated and the weak, those who strayed too far from the safety of their homes. Each victim fell prey to its insidious embrace, their bodies becoming vessels for the parasite's offspring, their humanity stripped away as they were turned into instruments of death. The villagers, now prisoners in their own homes, watched in horror as the night sky was set ablaze with an otherworldly aurora. It was a signal, a beacon calling out to the depths of space, announcing that the pupa had found a new realm to conquer. As the pupa's insidious presence took hold in Mindanao, the once tranquil village of Balintawak became a nexus of nightmares. The parasite's ability to warp and twist its hosts into grotesque forms was only matched by its cunning, as it learned to mimic human behavior, weaving itself into the fabric of daily life with malevolent intent. The first signs of the pupa's spread were subtle yet disturbing. Lena, the young mother who had been claimed by the darkness, returned to her family. Her husband, Raymond, overjoyed by her return, failed to notice the coldness in her touch, the vacant stare in her eyes, and the slight hitch in her gait. It was only when he witnessed her consuming the family pet in the dead of night, her jaw unhinging like a snake's, that the horrific truth dawned on him. In the following days, more villagers succumbed to the pupa's influence. Father Mateo, the village priest, began to speak in sermons of fire and brimstone, his voice no longer soothing but sharp and discordant. The children, once playful and carefree, now moved with a purpose beyond their years, their laughter replaced by an eerie silence. The jungle itself seemed to recoil from the village, the animals fleeing deeper into the wilderness, as if aware of the abomination that now walked among the trees. The plants near the crater withered, their life force drained by the alien presence that had taken root in their midst. As the Pupa's hosts grew in number, they began to venture beyond the village, into the neighboring towns. They spread the parasite's reach, claiming new victims with each passing night. The once bustling markets of Cagayan fell silent, the streets empty save for the occasional echo of footsteps that belonged to neither man nor beast. The military, sent to contain the situation, found themselves outmatched by the Pupa's adaptability. Their weapons proved ineffective against hosts whose bodies could heal at an alarming rate, whose limbs could transform into shields and blades. The soldiers' communications were filled with reports of figures that could vanish into thin air, only to reappear moments later, their hands dripping with the blood of their comrades. As the Pupa's influence spread across Mindanao, the island became a tapestry of terror. Entire villages were abandoned, their inhabitants either fled or transformed. The parasite's hosts moved with a singular purpose, their actions coordinated as if by a hive mind. They were no longer individuals, but extensions of the Pupa's will, their humanity erased by the alien invader. The story of Balintawak and its fall became a whispered legend among the survivors. Tales of the Pupa's hosts, their bodies capable of unspeakable horrors, became the stuff of nightmares. The once vibrant culture of Mindanao, rich with tradition and history, was now overshadowed by the specter of the Pupa, a reminder of the fragility of life and the unknown dangers that lurk in the cosmos. The island of Mindanao, once a tapestry of lush greenery and vibrant culture, had become a desolate wasteland under the Pupa's reign. The parasite's spread was relentless, its hosts now numbering in the hundreds, each one a harbinger of death and decay. The once fertile fields of Balintawak lay fallow, the crops withered and dying, choked by an unseen blight. The fishermen's boats floated aimlessly in the harbor, their nets empty, and their owners lost to the Pupa's hunger. The jungle, which had once teemed with life, was now silent, its creatures either fled or consumed by the hosts. The village itself was a ghost town, the laughter of children replaced by the howling of the wind through abandoned homes. The Pupa's hosts, their bodies grotesque parodies of their former selves, roamed the streets. They were no longer the people of Balintawak. They were the Pupa's spawn, their humanity stripped away, leaving only the drive to feed and multiply. In the neighboring town of Cagayan, the situation was no better. The military's quarantine had failed, and the Pupa had breached the town's defenses. The soldiers, once confident in their ability to contain the threat, now fought a losing battle against an enemy that could not be killed by conventional means. The hosts moved with a terrifying efficiency, their attacks coordinated and ruthless. They struck at night, their forms barely visible in the darkness, their presence announced only by the screams of their victims. The townspeople barricaded themselves in their homes, praying for a dawn that would bring salvation. But the Pupa had no concept of mercy. As the parasite's influence grew, strange phenomena began to occur. The sky above Mindanao darkened, even during the day, as if the sun itself was afraid to shine upon the island. The waters around the coast turned a murky red, the blood of the Pupa's victims carried by the currents. The air was thick with the stench of death, a constant reminder of the horror that had befallen the land. The few survivors who remained spoke of seeing figures standing motionless at the edge of the jungle, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. They whispered of the sounds that came from the crater at night, a chorus of alien voices that seemed to speak in a language older than time itself. The Pupa's hosts began to change, their bodies evolving into even more horrific forms. Some grew wings, dark and leathery, taking to the skies in search of prey. Others developed thick, chitinous armor, impervious to bullets and blades. And some vanished entirely, their forms melting into the shadows, only to reappear elsewhere, their mouths dripping with fresh blood. The story of Mindanao's desolation spread across the Philippines, a tale of woe and warning. The Pupa had turned the island into a breeding ground for its kind, a stronghold from which it could launch its conquest of the world. And as the rest of humanity looked on in horror, they could only wonder if their home would be next. As the Pupa's dark embrace tightened around Mindanao, the world beyond its shores could only watch in horror and disbelief. The island, once a beacon of natural beauty and cultural richness, had become a nightmarish tableau of alien domination. The skies over Mindanao, perpetually shrouded in darkness, bore witness to the final stages of the Pupa's conquest. The few remaining military outposts sent distress signals into the void, their pleas for help lost amidst the cacophony of chaos that had engulfed the island. In the towns and villages that had once dotted the landscape, the silence was deafening. The Pupa's hosts, now the sole occupants, roamed the empty streets and abandoned homes. They were no longer bound by the parasite's need for secrecy. Their grotesque forms were displayed openly, a testament to the Pupa's complete control. The once vibrant city of Davao, a hub of commerce and life, was now a desolate ghost town. Its towering buildings stood as mausoleums to the fallen, their windows dark and lifeless. The Pupa's hosts patrolled the city's limits, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of escapees. In the rural areas, the land itself seemed to mourn. The rice terraces of Mindanao, once a marvel of human ingenuity, lay neglected and overgrown. The terraces' intricate patterns, which had for centuries been a symbol of harmony between man and nature, were now marred by the Pupa's corruption. The seas around Mindanao, once teeming with marine life, were now a graveyard. The fish had either fled or been consumed, and the once clear waters were tainted with the residue of the Pupa's presence. The beaches, where families had once gathered to celebrate and relax, were now landing sites for the Pupa's aerial hosts, their winged silhouettes a grim reminder of the island's fate. Amidst the desolation, there were tales of resistance. Small groups of survivors, hidden in the depths of the jungle or barricaded in the mountains, held on to the hope of reclaiming their home. They spoke in hushed tones of a plan to fight back, to find a weakness in the Pupa's armor. But these stories were mere whispers on the wind, the last embers of hope in a world gone dark. The international community, paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, debated the best course of action. Some called for a quarantine of the entire region, while others argued for a full-scale assault to reclaim the island. But the truth was clear. Mindanao was lost, and with it, a piece of humanity's soul. The Pupa, content with its victory, turned its gaze to the stars once more. The aurora that danced above Mindanao was not just a beacon. It was a signal, a call to others of its kind. And as the world watched the skies with trepidation, they could not shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. You never know who really walks amongst us. Thank you for tuning in. I will see you again next week.